This video was made with the help of an AI tool that lets anyone create cinematic long-form videos, just like this one. It all started one night when we got a call. A frantic call from our friend who lived in this abandoned house in the woods. We've been here many times before making M or Beast videos, but this time it was different. He sounded scared. He said something was wrong, that he had to tell us something. We could hear movement around him, like heavy breathing. Then the line went dead. There's so much more to this story than we can tell you in just a few minutes. This is the story of our friend. This is a tale of terror from beyond the grave. And these are the disturbing secrets of the living puppet. This is the story of an eccentric artisan whose life revolved around creating the most exquisite and lifelike puppets in the world. Living in a dilapidated workshop in the woods, he spent his days carving wooden faces, stitching cloth bodies and fitting glass eyes, whispering to his creations as if they were already alive. But nobody knows why he did this because he never spoke a word to anyone ever. No one knew anything about him. He was completely reclusive. We don't even know his name. Then one day, there was a terrible tragedy. Something happened in this workshop that turned the tables, broke the man's mind and created a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Maybe it was the loss of his child, maybe his wife, or maybe even both. But whatever it was, it sent him over the edge, causing him to go missing for months on end, only to return to find the workshop even more run down than before. As time passed, strange things started to happen. Puppets began appearing in places they weren't supposed to be, as if someone had put them there to watch him work. His friends warned him to get help, but he brushed off their concerns and continued working, growing more and more unhinged with each passing day until one night everything changed forever. His loyal workshop assistant stumbled out of the building in the middle of the night, his eyes wide with terror as he frantically dialed 911 on his cell phone. When the police arrived, they found a horrific sight. The puppet master was dead, strangled to death with his own marionette wires, his lifeless eyes staring blankly ahead. What made the scene even more disturbing was the fact that the only thing next to him was a puppet. And when they checked the surveillance footage, they saw something that made them question everything. As they watched the clock struck 12, the puppet's head moved slightly to the right as if it were observing the murder. Was it a hallucination caused by the killer, or was the puppet really alive? The police thought it was ridiculous and dismissed the assistant as claims that a puppet had murdered the man. With no signs of forced entry and no other suspects, the case went nowhere. But as time passed, things took a turn for the worse. The assistant started hearing strange sounds at night, scratching noises coming from the corner of his eye as he worked alone in the dark. He tried to convince himself that it was just his imagination. But then tools would move by themselves and finished puppets would suddenly appear in new places. He felt like he was being watched every second of every day, like something was stalking him, waiting for its chance to strike. One night, he decided to take matters into his own hands, setting up a camera to record as he searched the darkened workshop for answers. He hoped to capture whatever was haunting him on tape, and what he found was terrifying. On the screen, he saw a puppet moving slowly towards the camera, its eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Before he could react, the power went out, plunging him into total blackness. Then he heard the sound of footsteps running away from him. But when he turned the light back on, the puppet was gone. Desperation took hold as he tried desperately to escape the clutches of the living doll. But wherever he went, it seemed to be waiting for him. It moved with an uncanny grace, gliding between the shelves and creeping closer to its prey. Its beady eyes gleaming with malice, it stalked him relentlessly until he could stand it no longer and ran for the hills, racing through the moonlit forest, the sound of its footsteps echoing behind him like a death knell. But when he finally dared to look back, he saw that the puppet wasn't getting any closer. It was standing still in the middle of the path, its arms outstretched as if beckoning him to come back. Terrified, he kept running until he came across a clearing where a small cabin stood bathed in the soft glow of a porch light. Rushing inside, he slammed the door behind him and collapsed on a chair, gasping for breath. But his respite was short-lived because soon enough, the scratching sound started again, this time coming from the other side of the door. What was it trying to do? Was it outside the cabin, trying to get in? Or was it already inside, hiding in the darkness, waiting for its moment to strike? Either way, he knew he couldn't stay there forever. So he grabbed his things and made a run for it. He raced down the dirt road, the sound of his own footsteps pounding in his ears as he tried to put as much distance between himself and the puppet as possible. But then he tripped over something in the darkness and fell face first onto the cold hard ground. As he lay there stunned, he could hear the sound of the puppet approaching him, its footsteps slow and deliberate like a predator stalking its prey. He struggled to his feet and ran blindly through the trees, desperate to escape its grasp. But he knew it was only a matter of time before it caught up to him. Just when he thought he couldn't run anymore, he came across a rickety old bridge over a rushing stream and didn't stop until he was on the other side. Panting heavily, he turned around to see if the puppet had followed him, but instead saw something that made his blood run cold. There in the middle of the bridge, sitting calmly, was the puppet. Its head turned slightly to the right, revealing a faint smile beneath its painted lips. But that wasn't the worst of it. As he watched in horror, he saw another puppet appear beside it, then another and another until there were dozens of them standing on the bridge, their eyes gleaming with malice as they watched him approach. At that moment, he knew he was trapped and there was no escape from the clutches of the living dolls. They advanced towards him, their movements eerily synchronized like a macabre dance of death. Their beady eyes boring into his soul, he stumbled backwards, tripping over roots and rocks. But never looking back, he could feel their presence closing in on him, suffocating him with their silent menace. Then suddenly, he remembered something. The puppet master had a secret passageway hidden somewhere in the workshop. If he could find it, he might just stand a chance of escaping. But it was a long shot. As he ran blindly through the underbrush, he could hear the sound of the puppets close behind him, their footsteps relentless and unwavering. He dared not look back. Instead, he focused on the faint glimmer of hope ahead of him, praying that it would lead him to safety. Finally, he spotted it, a small opening concealed by overgrown vines. He didn't hesitate. He crawled through the narrow space, scraping his skin on sharp stones and thorns, ignoring the pain. Then, to his relief, he found himself in a small clearing. He stood up, his body aching and his clothes torn. But he was safe. For now, at least. He had escaped the clutches of the living dolls. Or had he? As he turned to leave, he saw a single puppet sitting on a nearby tree stump, its head tilted to the side as if listening intently to his every move. He froze in his tracks, his heart pounding in his chest. Then the puppet did something that made his blood run cold. It smiled. A slow, sinister grin spread across its painted lips, revealing the sharp teeth. And then it spoke, in a raspy voice that seemed to come from beyond the grave. It whispered, "You can't hide from me. I'll always find you." And with that, it disappeared into the shadows, leaving him alone in the clearing with his fear and his fate. The police investigated further and discovered horrifying audio logs that revealed the truth about the puppet maker. It seemed he hadn't been making ordinary puppets after all. He had been using human parts to create them, including the remains of his own son. And it was theorized that the puppet with the glowing eyes was the boy. Somehow his consciousness had been uploaded to the puppet, allowing it to become self-aware and survive even after death. It became clear that the puppet was responsible for the deaths of the puppet maker and many others. It was a relentless killing machine that wouldn't rest until it had claimed every last life in its path. The final chapter was the most disturbing of all. The police found the puppet sitting silently in the window of a toy store, waiting patiently for its next victim. And as if that wasn't enough to send chills down your spine, they also found a note next to it that read, "I'm not done yet."